of these took more than a whole day to do that. They had to come back on the next day. And then the last thing that they were supposed to do was then to take all of these things that they looked at, this large variety of things, and objectively review all the resources selected using the rubrics that I sent out to you in your packets, called the Publisher's Criteria Rubric, and make recommendations to the Phase 2 committees as to which of these resources that will be put out for display for public review. In other words, their job was to narrow that down. For a lot of people to look at a lot of things, narrow them down using an objective rubric. In other words, do these curriculums meet the things on the rubric? And then get it down to a manageable amount to where we can then put that amount out for public review. And then the committees on Phase 2 can continue to look more in depth at the 2 to 3 resources that they chose to do so. It just wasn't logistically able to take 7 or 8 and do it in depth. But we would have had them weeks out of the classroom to do that. But they were able to fairly quickly narrow down to what they wanted, and then they objectively rated them all and came out, and the top 3 came out of each category. We now have the books on review out front. You should also have had a handout that was sent out to you to where we have hyperlinked all of the a web link to all of the sites of each of the books to where parents, and we have posted that on the CPSB website where all the parents can now look at least get an idea of what the publisher has to offer from the comfort of their home. I will admit that some of these links do not allow you to go as in-depth into the book as some people would like. In that case, we do have all the books out front, and we are allowing people to come and review those books until through next Monday, the end of the day next Monday from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock. We have also polled our teachers and our principals the way we had promised you that we would. We have those results. The principals and the teachers have those results in their hands. We have made copies, and we will make sure and share and go over that data with those Phase 2 committees. We will present with them what I am doing right now as I'm getting feedback. I'm getting some that's put straight in the box. I'm getting others that are being emailed straight to me. I am copying them, putting them in files of K through 5 math, K through 5 ELA, 6 through 8 math, and so on. I have a file for each one. I'm printing them out as I'm doing them, and as long as they have signed their name to them, I'm placing them in the box. When we get through and we have everything collected, I will make copies for each of the committees. Each committee member will get a copy of that, and they will sit during the meeting and read through, so we make sure that they read through and actually know what the public has said. A few people are commenting on the same page. Math and ELA, it's mostly elementary. What I'm doing in those cases, I'm making 2 copies, and I'm putting 1 copy in the math folder and 1 copy in the ELA folder, since there's going to be 2 different groups taking a look at that. Next week is when our Phase 2 committees start meeting again. They will have time to have looked more in depth at each of these curriculums, and then they will make their final votes based on those 3 things, based on the results of the parent feedback, I should say stakeholder feedback, based on the survey, and based on how they rate those rubrics once they've looked at them more in depth. And so that's basically where we are right now, Madam Chair.
Great, and we look forward to the next step. That's for information only. Any quick questions? Mr. Brook?
Do you have all that data put together on the surveys?
Yes, sir. It was sent out. It was sent out to all the board members, all the principals, and the teachers. I'm sure all have that. Yes, sir.
I don't know. I think my email account.
I'll send it to you again, Mr. Brook.
Send it to my brother.
Does anybody else need it also?
All right, Mr. Tarver.
Your personal email?
First question is easy. As after the committees review the survey scores and stuff, are they going to make public? Or I have a few people ask me, and I just kind of tell them, okay, this is kind of what I saw. But are they going to be publicized after that?
The surveys have been given to the teachers, so I assume they were public.
Well,
I think
so that's the answer. But in general, send them to whoever asked for them, and set kind of the plan.
Not happening already.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be kind of off the wall, and I apologize in advance for blindsiding you with it, but I'm going to blindside you with it anyway. It's obviously we're getting a lot of emails about curriculum, like you said, mostly in elementary, and I was wondering, there's definitely people having a lot of success with what we're doing, but then there's definitely also people that want to change. And I think the 50-50 Greek and math survey was pretty clearly demonstrated that. I was wondering, off the wall, is there any thought given to the possibility of maybe having a couple options, let the principals decide, or maybe even the teachers decide what resource they want to use in their classrooms? And it's okay if you say nope, but I just wanted to know, is that even considered? And would the committees have an opportunity to recommend that if they wanted to? Just a thought.
Now, Mr. Tarver, we have always considered allowing teachers to use other resources in their classroom and stuff.
Well, but I mean,
We've never gone into a classroom and said, you have to be teaching this the whole hour and nothing but this, so help you God. That's not the way
I
we
didn't
work.
say you were.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carr, I was just answering the
Okay.
question. I thought. What we are open to looking into the possibility of, for one thing, when you have teachers that have been extremely successful and the data has shown that they are extremely successful, hugely successful, it's gonna be hard to take something out of their hands once they've used it and once they felt very comfortable with it and do it. So even if something new is adopted, instead of that, it's going to be very difficult for us to say, no, you can't use that anymore, even though you were extremely successful in the past. So in that respect, you may be right.
That's kind of exactly
But
what
I'm going to play the other side for it, Mr. Tarver. It's a little difficult, especially when you're tying district common assessments, and when you're trying to bring some consistency in professional development and all those things, when you have a helter-skelter type of situation set up to where each individual principal, or maybe if the principal is okay, maybe each individual teacher within that school is doing a different thing. So there has to be some level of consistency in those schools. So I'm kind of answering your question, yes and no, possibly. Are all the cards going to be on the table once we get the results back? Because we almost have to look at those things after we get the results, and what did the committee say that they want us to do? And then come up with a plan, and Mr. Brookhouse and I will have to work long and hard trying to come up with something that we think is going to be in the best interest for everybody. Because obviously, you've seen the surveys, y'all see the emails. Obviously, there's a bipolar feeling about things here. The principals feel strongly that things are working. The teachers are split on it, and the parents are lean more to being against it. So we will have to look at all of those things and see what's best for the district. But my opinion, and I think Mr. Brookhouse's opinion, is whatever comes out of these committees is probably what we're going to recommend to the board. He can speak to it if he has something different.
No, that's good.
Okay, Mr. Hardy?
Mr. Campbell, I had your report here and I read it. And I'd like to make a suggestion if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I know that in part of this you indicated, for example, that 6-8 ELA voted 19-1 to continue using. Well, what I'm looking for is a cumulative type report where I can see that my wife won't let me keep all these papers on my desk. So if I can get a report that's cumulative, that says votes look first round, votes look here. You have some very good information here with the DCAs. And this survey I thought was very good. So if you could let us, in very capped synopsis form, that when you
I
bring
have
it,
it right here, Mr. Horn. I've already
bring us
created
a
that
report,
document.
so we can see it.
I'll be glad.
We can have a history before it rather than have to go through a lot of papers. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Roberts?
I just have a quick question. Can you send a copy of the ratings for each of these committees, that the committees rated?
Yes, sir, I can.
Each.
I would have to warn you, Mr. Roberts, as you look at the ratings, we asked the people on the committee to be extremely objective in the first phase, because that was the purpose of the first phase, to be extremely objective. In the second phase, it's more look at what the public thinks, look at what the survey teachers think, and then look at what you think, and then some personal bias can kind of come in at that point. I will tell you that when you look at these first results, some people had difficulty being objective when you look at those results, and it'll be very obvious see some materials, some of our current materials rated at a 0 or a 1, while all other materials are rated at 100%. And so it's real difficult to say who came out, what came out, you know. And there's about 3 to 4 on each one of the committees where that happened. A group that gave very low scores to current curriculum, 100% to the other curriculums. So I would just warn you, I'll be glad to send you that information. But if you just look at the total end result average, that's kind of a skewed average.
Well, I mean, well, if they got a 0 on one perspective and they got 100 on the other, I would say.
No, sir, that's not what I'm talking about. The current curriculum received a 0, the other curriculums received 100, all of them received 100%.
So there were no curriculum, there was no one particular curriculum that had a 0 and someone else.
No, sir, but once you throw score, it's kind of like in the Olympics, Mr. Roberts, how they always throw out the high score and the low score.
Right, and that's why I wanted to see it, so
there was some skewing that took place on the bottom side.
On the bottom side.
For two particular curriculums.
Thank you.
Mr. Delapause?
But I will get that information to all of you.
Will you go over the dates again for me, so we'll know? I know February 12th through March 2nd is the review period. The review, it will end on the 2nd, is that correct?
On the end of the day, next Monday, Commissioner.
Okay, so at that point, the committee is going to begin to start to assemble everything and do whatever.
We have a committee that's meeting on the next day.
Okay. And then, what's the date that we will get these results?
Whenever the C&I committee, we'll have a recommendation for the next C&I meeting in March. We're not sure exactly what that date is.
Okay, that's my
The
question.
committee date is the 24th, but we think we have other committees that are wanting to meet on that date. I really believe that this C&I committee meeting needs to be a standalone meeting because I think it would be fairly lengthy, and I don't think they're gonna wanna sit through another meeting, without. So we will probably schedule a few days later than the 24th.
Okay, that's all.
All right. Did you want to make a, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I was looking at this printout here on the 6 through 8 ELA. On the second page, it says 6 through 8 ELA voted 19-1 to continue using the resources that have been used over the past 2 years. No further meetings are concerned. Okay. Now, there's nothing else about, this is finished, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and these other meetings are not complete yet?
No, let me give you all the information on that, Mr. Smith. There were 3 committees that chose to they did not even want to look at other resources. Now, these were a high school ELA, middle school ELA, and high school social studies. Actually, high school social studies did look at some books, they did review some books, but then when they came back and met again, they looked at the books and said, we don't think any of these books are as good as what we have. And so they voted unanimously to keep what they had. And in the process, we had provided an opportunity that if there was a super majority of people who wanted to keep what they had, why would we put our people through and take our people out of classes and stuff for days and days when they were happy? The same thing happened with the high school ELA. They voted 19-0, I think, to keep their current materials, and the same thing happened in middle school ELA. I think theirs was 18-1. Voted to keep 19-1. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but they by far was satisfied. And then again, those were not curriculums that were controversial at all. The teachers were happy with them, and if you look at the surveys that we did, the teacher surveys kind of going right along with that they were happy with those curriculums that did not want to change. So.
All right, Mr. Hardy?
Well, I was about to make a motion to adjourn.
What? All right, did anybody else, we ready? All right, let's let Mr. Bro real quick, and then I'll go. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Bro.
There are parts of all of that curriculum that the teachers do like. The controversial stuff is what's causing the issues, and I like the part where it seemed to be